one day we were basically at my parents' house. We were there with a group of friends, everybody swimming in the pool. My brother and I just disappeared, and we were just like, all right, let's go cut this 911 in half and get this project started. So yeah, everybody walked into the garage and saw this 911 cut in half, and they're just like, what the fuck, guys?
Hi everyone, welcome to the Car Chat podcast. I'm Sam Moores, and with me today I have Nikita Bridan. Hello.
Hi from California.
Welcome. Apologies for making you get up so early. Nikita has really pulled the boat out to be here. I think it's like 6 or something.
Yeah. No, excited to be here. Should be a fun chat. So let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell the listeners a sort of short summary of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So, Nikita Bridan, used to be a car designer out here in California for a decade, and then started Oilstain Lab along with my twin brother in 2018, 2019, something like that. So it was a design consultancy on everything automotive and sort of our corporate exit strategy, let's say. And we built this interesting car called the Half 11, which is sort of exploded worldwide and got us to Goodwood. And so that's kind of the basis of the company. And now we're sort of transitioning into a new car and becoming kind of a boutique auto manufacturer.
Nice. I want to sort of dive back into a bit of the sort of earlier times. But yeah, I think I first came across your car. I think it was either a Top Gear video, but I think it was probably before that. Was there a Luftical? Was that the first? What was the first sort of big event or big sort of explosion?
Trying to remember. There wasn't any Luftgekult. There was definitely a Top Gear video. There was Car Week one year. We won an award at Quail, which was quite amazing.
Oh,
it's been kind of a slow burn with this car. It's just been slowly evolving, as it's been changing from speedster to coupe to everything.
Yeah.
It's kind of been everywhere now, but we'll see where it goes next.
That must have been when I first saw it. I was at Quail, the only time I've ever been. And I think it was 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or maybe even because there's one in like whenever it is, very soon. I think I saw it there and was like, what on earth is this? So let's wind back a little bit. You have a twin brother, is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
But obviously that was like the very, very, very beginning. But no, outside of that, you got into design. Was it always automotive? What sort of led you that way?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we grew up in rural Canada and we were drawing all the time together. So both of us were just drawing things, dinosaurs, spaceships and cars. And not a big car culture in Canada. So we weren't like car guys, let's say. Sort of these designers really love design, the problem solving aspect of it. And for some reason at like 10 years old, just decided together we're going to be both car designers. Like that's it. We found this website, cardesignnews.com, started submitting for like design contests. My brother won a design contest, I think, came third in some Motor Trend design competition. And the parents, they were concerned, obviously. They're like, probably get a real career like a lawyer or a doctor. Tried to persuade us not to do it, but also supported us, kind of underground support. And then, at 14, we dropped out of high school and moved to Italy to study car design in a university. So that was the big jump into, yeah.
That is that is a big move.
It escalated quickly.
How did you how did you choose where you wanted to go and like why Italy and, wherever you ended up?
Yeah. So, again, I think, with my parents, they weren't incredibly wealthy. Some of the best design schools in the world are super expensive, like Art Center and stuff in California. And we were at the time 13 years old, sent out all these portfolios. We got accepted actually to Coventry in the UK.
Yeah.
And my grandparents live in the UK. So we're like, oh, this is great. So cool. We're going to be with our grandparents. It's going to be awesome. Could save money. And then Coventry denied us when they found out we were 13. It's like, no, your portfolio is good enough, but no, you can't actually attend. And so, ended up going to Italy where we were also accepted. But obviously that was a second choice, foreign country, foreign language, obviously a little bit more difficult. So immediately enrolled in some Italian lessons in Canada and then moved out there. Luckily, the parents, of course, were flexible enough to take us there.
That's cool.
You can't send your 13-year-old kid to a different country. But so they moved out with us, and we did almost 2 years in Italy, learned in Italian, and then eventually that school wasn't as strong as we wanted it to be. We were these probably very prickish 14-year-old kids that just wanted to be the best at what they were doing. And so we ended up transferring to California after 2 years to Art Center, which was the more expensive school. But then my parents were like, okay, these kids are psychos. Like, they're committed to this. There's nothing we can
serious.
do. So let's put them in the best school in the world, basically.
Nice. Just moving to Italy to study design. Were you studying was it taught in Italian?
Yeah, 100%. 100% Italian, yeah.
How was that transition?
Yeah. So, they don't really teach you, like, when you take Italian classes, you're just trying to, like, learn enough to survive, right? And now you're being taught, like, industry jargon and stuff like that, right? Like industry terms all in Italian. You're like, what the hell? Italian design history, which is so strong, but it's like you're learning about all these masters in Italian. It's challenging. It was challenging, but it was good. Yeah. When you're 13 or 14, it's a lot easier than when you're like, 24.
I'm presuming you're just like, whoa, let's learn as much. Can you still speak Italian?
So I can watch Italian movies and understand it fluently, but my speaking skills, I literally just have anxiety because I know a little bit of French as well growing up in Canada. So I get the two like kind of mixed up and confused, and it's just panic. It's just pure panic, and I freeze.
So after you both got accepted to go to Italy, and then you both got accepted to go to California. I mean, that's kind of convenient that you both ended up in the same place, and not one having to diverge massively. And then where did you go after that? And what is the process, I guess, upon leaving somewhere? Do you just apply to a bunch of companies and say, "Hey, I'm a designer," or do they sort of poach you during the program as well?
Yeah, so at Art Center, most of the faculty is industry, so they work inside the industry. And then in California, here in Los Angeles, we're blessed to have basically like 15 design studios from all the OEMs. It's all their advanced studios. So it's the fun studios, the ones that aren't spending 5 years on production programs. They're the guys playing in the playground and creating concepts and dreams. So yeah, basically, Art Center is a really difficult school. The attrition's really high. So obviously you're just trying to survive, learn the skills, and then obviously at the same time, make a good reputation with your teachers and your industry peers. And so, for us, it was a relatively seamless sort of, I guess, job application process because people knew our work ethic and knew our personalities and everything. So it wasn't, you almost don't need a portfolio. Like everyone knows who you are because they've been teaching you for 5 years.
But
the goal, the big challenge for my brother and I is we were Canadian, so we didn't have green cards, which means we had no work authorization. So then the company needs to invest into you to get you the work authorization. And then the other dream was to work together. And car design jobs don't grow on trees. Like there's rarely 2 job openings. Let alone 1. So, out of a class of, I think, 15 people, think the only people that ended up staying in California were my brother and I. And I think one other student got an actual car design job in Detroit. So it's a challenging thing to get a job. And then somehow we managed to finagle our way to go to Toyota together at their Calty Advanced Design studio, which was this like very mysterious design studio. No one really knew what they were doing. They weren't really putting out a ton of show cars. Like even the people that worked there, it was like, oh, I don't know. Does he work there? Does he not work there? It was all very hush hush. So, and a good friend had just been hired in there a year prior. So we wanted to go work with him, who now works at Singer actually. It was like the dream start, let's say.
That's pretty cool. And you guys are like still probably hilariously young at this point in time. Or are you a bit older by then?
I mean, 21 when we started working our first day. Yeah, 21.
And what was that like joining somewhere like Toyota, which I don't even know. I presume it's all quite like rigid and set ways of doing X, Y, and Z, or, you know, what was it like?
Yeah, I mean, so you're 100% correct about like corporate Toyota, and then Calty is this kind of like, they want to portray themselves as this free thinking, you know, little pod outside of the company sort of space station, let's say. You know, we never went to Japan with Toyota, but we heard rules where like you can't walk diagonally across a room. You know, you have to walk in 90 degrees, and they have these like special doors. They're kind of these like cylinders. So like you can't steal anything from work or a backpack or anything. Yeah. And it's like a little tube that seals you in and then rotates and you go in. It's wild stuff. But no, we were lucky. Calty was very like California. It was actually the first design studio in California. I think back in the 60s or the 50s. It was a really cool team. They were working on Lexus LFLC, that big luxury coupe at the time, the show car for that. So learned a lot from an incredible sort of team there. It was wild. They work very different than any other design studio I've ever been in. That's for sure. They have their own unique process. But it didn't last very long.
You got booted or chose to move?
Well, basically, it was an interesting situation because, again, we didn't have visas or work authorization. So part of our contract was they were going to get us these green cards, which in the US is like, you know, it's gold. It gives you 10 years of stability. After the 1 year was up, they decided they didn't want to pay for that anymore, and they found a cheaper option, and they reneged on their contract. So they literally like ripped the contract up in front of us, and we're like, we changed our mind.
That's savage.
And then, so it was, you know, we were having a great time. Everybody wanted to continue, but HR department and their director just decided they needed to save some. You know, I think $20,000 or something is what they ended up trying to say. We got poached by Honda literally 3 days later. Like we were upset at Toyota. We're going through these like negotiations, and then literally got a blank check offer from Honda to like come join.
Oh, nice.
And we jumped ship.
So you moved to Honda, and what sort of things were you doing at this time? Like, I know being a designer, it can be a variety of things down to designing some sort of screws or something. Like, what sort of stuff were you working on?
Yeah, so the first year at Toyota was kind of crazy because we saw Scion, that old brand, get killed. So they had this big meeting where they invited all the CEOs of all the companies and suppliers and everything. They sat around like this United Nations table with translators in their ears, and they killed Scion. But at Honda, we transferred over initially to the Pasadena / Los Angeles design studio. This amazing space, downtown LA, right by the Staples Center where the Lakers play. Really cool, vibrant area. I was working on at the time, so this would be 2013, something like that. Basically electrification strategy. So what would Honda's future be electric? All the platforms, everything like that. And then my brother almost immediately won the Honda CRV basically production proposal from North America. So they then shipped him off to Torrance, which is the production design studio, which is south of downtown LA a little bit. And that's where they have all the engineers. They have it's a serious, program, serious design studio. And he spent the next, 2-3 years working on that, competing against the Japanese studios. And then eventually his won and became the, I think, 2017 production CRV, which then went on to make 6-7 million of these damn things crawling around. So he can always look at it and be like, oh, this is where I screwed up. This is where better. This is where the engineer screwed it up.
I had this perfect vision, and that is not it.
Exactly. Yeah. So
you're in this corporate environment for, I guess, quite a lot longer, working on different projects and stuff. Are there any particular projects that you were like, that was really cool to work on for some reason or another that stand out?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of it was really cool, especially when you're younger. And then maybe after the first cycle repeats itself, you're kind of like, oh, we're just doing the same thing again. We're not actually moving anything forward or advancing. It's been 5 years. Can't we use new technology? And no, we can't. It's too expensive. So yeah, I mean, I think for me, I ended up jumping around a little bit to a few of the other brands to kind of beat off the boredom and the sort of monotony of it all. I ended up jumping to Hyundai Genesis, and then from Hyundai Genesis jumping really quickly to General Motors Advanced. We did some really cool stuff, crazy talented team. GM's known for hiring the best designers, the most talented people, and then just putting them into retirement. It's like a little zoo. They're look, this is a unicorn. Look how talented he is. He's doing nothing.
Forever.
So it was this crazy team that was putting out amazing work, and none of it ever got made, shown, done anything with. So yeah, it was a good 4 years of just, kind of semi-retirement. Eventually, my dream was always to do a show car. So eventually my show car did sort of come out. It was the Cadillac Interspace. And that's probably the one that I'm the most happy that I was able to push through a very corporate system, eventually culminating in me getting fired because we pushed so hard. But it was worth it. So yeah, that's the one that sticks out.
What were you sort of pushing in that particular project that was what were the concepts or whatever that you were sort of pushing for that were a bit different or, moving things forward?
So, I mean, again, it was Cadillac's sort of foray into electrification, trying to figure out what their character and their soul is. At the time, they were, there it is, yeah. They were pushing really heavily their V series and performance and this and that. And internally, we felt okay, Cadillac has always been these 50s, 60s land yachts, right? It's been a very selfish brand in many ways. It's been about the person inside the car. And so this radical proposal started to come out, which, Cadillac has a history of doing these personal luxury concepts back from Bill Mitchell in the 70s and stuff, these crazy sort of speed form things. And so my proposal ended up winning out. It was almost 7 meters long, just this massive thing, longer than an Escalade ESV, had 28-inch rims, fully autonomous, electric, and only 2 seats. The initial proposal had a Zen garden where the front engine would have been. So the entire capsule was glass. There was a garden. There was a waterfall.
Oh, right,
it was the most insane, over the top thing. And then some of the product planners came in and they were like, but this won't fit in a garage in China. And we were just like, what? What?
It's a concept
We're like,
car.
I mean, and the reality is like, look, if they want an American car in China, they're like, build a bigger garage. Like it should be
Yeah.
like national identity should be a thing in cars. I think, that's the one thing that's really sad is like from the 70s, like you had a Mini Cooper, which was proper Mini. And then you had
Yeah.
Cadillac, which was proper Cadillac, and BMW was proper BMW, and Alpha was proper Alpha. And that's all just, been sort of benchmarked to death and everything's the same. Yeah, it's sad.
That's so true. Like, I don't know whether brands now communicate, or they might communicate, but put out a product along with like a purpose. Like they're all just like, oh, we've created this, especially in the sort of high end. It's like literally anything has to be really fast, able to go around a track, but also an SUV, also 4 tons, and take the kids in the back. And you're like, but that's just not, that doesn't inspire people to at least like, I don't know, buy them, use them, own them, like some sort of aesthetic dream. It's just, yeah. with all these concept cars always have there's lots of stuff about concept cars that's funny, but just the most insanely large wheels. And then some manufacturers even, I'm pretty sure I've seen, I'm not going to list any particular ones because I don't know if there's any legalities and stuff, but I've definitely seen it where, let's say Ferrari's launched a car and then you see the road car, and this is definitely something that Ferrari has done in the past, and it's like the one that was launched had about 400 kilos of weight in the front and the back. Like, the arch gaps between the wheels are like perfect. Like, and then you see the road car and it's just like, whoof. Like, I don't know why. Just put out the thing. Just do the thing.
Yeah, well, I think it's a problem with basically one manufacturer starts cheating and everyone
Yeah.
else starts cheating because like that guy's cheating, right? So I know there was this electric startup company that presented an electric sedan. Uh, they had like tires have tire markings, right? They
Yeah.
made a custom tire marking that said that the rim was 2 inches smaller. So they presented as a 20-inch rim. And the rims were actually 22s. But when the photographers took photos, they're like, yeah, no, this is a 20. And the production car is now on the road. And you see it with the 20s and you're like, yeah, it needed those 22s. Like it was designed with those 22s. So yeah, it's a shame how big cars are and how heavy cars are, but also just like, yeah, how much you have to cheat now to hide a lot of the
That is
packaging.
cheeky.
Yeah.
That is cheeky. Like, if you just say it is going to be what it's going to be, like, fine. You go like, look, we all know concept cars generally look better. Like, they have bigger wheels and they look a bit better, like whatever. And then like, it's always interesting looking at the ones that are the sort of, you see the production example and it looks somewhat similar to the cool concept before. But I guess different studios, you'll be able to say this, you have like a dream of making something that could be production worthy or not. Like, I guess it's two different things.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the closest I've seen a show car to production car, and despite that, I think they added 2.5 inches in height, but was that Lexus LFC car, that big coupe. I mean, I think they lost millions or billions of dollars on that program because the level of engineering and the parts that they had to make and the way they went about it, crazy. But they pretty faithfully, I think, match what the show car was with that thing. So
Yeah.
that's the best I've seen in recent times, I think.
That was a really cool looking car, that. Like, that's a real like design statement in a good way. Where in terms of your personal design sort of ethos, what do you naturally sort of gravitate towards?
Yeah, it's definitely progressed over time. When I was a younger designer starting out, you're kind of maybe because you're pigeonholed into this role of like, let's find a new body side. And so you create these crazy body sides and shapes and forms and everything. But like my natural instinct has always been more minimalist, pulling back stuff. I love vintage cars for that reason. There isn't a bunch of crazy lines. And, I kind of dislike chasing trends or fads. And then obviously I think, there's people always talk about like performance or function influencing the design. Yes, that's definitely like 100% true, especially with anything we do. But I think there's just love problem solving, and if the problem can inform the styling and the design, and then you can hide a function, I think to me that's like the ultimate sort of win. So we have an expression where it's like any technology sufficiently advanced is perceived as magic, and that's a feeling that we try and chase. So if we can hide aerodynamics in just a beautiful surface and no one understands how, or even how like it shouldn't work, that's to me a successful design, not a feature that's like a giant wing that says, look at me, which, unfortunately is today's trend. But yeah, that's, I think, the ethos that we strive for and chase.
Yeah, I like that. Like, you've got the stuff in there, but it's not just like smack bang in your face. A company what I quite like sometimes is when you've got a design element that has multiple purposes that are not necessarily obvious. Like one I think I saw recently, it was the new, Aerial Nomad. Do you know that car?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's got like a light bar or something on the top, but it's like a bit of aero, it holds the lights, and it's like structural for part of the something else or whatever. And you're like, oh yeah, neat solution, like simple solution, does a bunch of jobs. Thank you very much. So you're doing all this design stuff. You're working quite a sort of corporate-y design job. And then at what point in time did you get the idea to go, let's do something myself?
Yeah. So it actually started about 2 years out of school. Oilstain Lab was trademarked, got a website, got everything in 2012, 2013, just when we went to Honda. And there was a couple friends of ours, and it was this sort of design art collective. It was supposed to be very anonymous. No one was supposed to know who's behind it. It was this Oilstain Lab collective. And quickly realized basically we didn't have authorization to start our own company or anything in the US. So immediately within a week, it was shut down, closed. And, basically, sorry, US government, we're sorry, please don't deport us. And so, yeah, it lay dormant until basically 2018, 2019, when my brother and I both got finally our green cards after, 6-7 years. And that's when we could start a company. But in the meantime, like we had developed kind of an obsession with old cars. So an interesting thing about us, like I'd mentioned earlier, we knew nothing, like weren't car guys. So I learned how to drive manual at 25, did my first oil change, I think at like 26 or 27, like completely not mechanically inclined, not in any way, shape. I don't think I knew how an engine worked until I was like 26 or 27. Like camshaft, I have no idea what that is, So very opposite. And that changed when we bought a 1972 911 for our birthday together between my brother and I, this race car.
Nice.
And that's the car I learned how to drive manual on, and he learned to drive manual on. And that's the first car we did an oil change on. And we literally dropped 13 quarts of oil onto the apartment complex's parking lot in the middle of the night. And so, yeah, that deep dived us into this sort of the vintage car era, the vintage thing, and sort of introduced us to the people. And, we started sort of sinking deeper and deeper and deeper into this hole, which then informed us of like what we thought was number one, missing from sort of the automotive environment. And then number two, what we wanted Oilstain Lab to sort of be about. and it was very much the 60s, 70s like approach to life, and sort of the fun of it, the not so seriousness of it, the very privateer quality of it, where the little guy can go and challenge the big boys. And so that was where it sort of all started. And the corporate environment, it's like we couldn't wait to escape. But at the same time, it was teaching us all these really valuable skills. It was connecting us with some of the most talented engineers, aerodynamicists, et cetera. So it's not like we were wasting our time. We were just, leveraging that as much as we could to help us build into the future. So, yeah, it's been a long journey.
And then, okay, so at what point in time, did you start going, I want to make this crazy thing?
Yeah. So it started 2017 or so as an idea. We managed to, by this point, we'd built like a couple 911s. We had like our Marlboro, which is like an RS Tribute. We had a turbo flared 912 weird hot rod car. And then we had a wide body RSR, full wide body race car, fiberglass thing. So we had these three cars. And then one of our cars was at a race shop. The guy was like, I'm getting rid of this 911 chassis. Like, do you guys want it? $500 today. You need to pick it up today, like right now. And so we built like a dolly he wouldn't give us the dolly. So we had to build our own dolly in the parking lot, screwed the thing together. He forklifted on there. We pulled it home. And we're just like, okay, what do we do? What do we do? Like, we've got all these cars, and like the Porsche world, I mean, it was saturated back then. Gosh, it's so saturated now with resto mods and every single thing you can imagine. And so we're like, what? How do we do something that's like maybe a business card for the business, Oilstain Lab? It also fulfills like our lifelong passion and love of the 60s, 70s, like prototypes. And also basically stands out in this Porsche world. And so it took us, I don't know, maybe a year of like kind of fiddling, doing some sketches, throwing some things together. And then my brother came back with the sketch where it was like half of a Porsche Interscope Indy car with a 911 front end attached to it. We're like, oh, fuck, that's crazy. I've never seen anything like that. Let's take that as the basis point and let's go start building something. And then obviously it evolved. And, there was a time, the early followers may remember, we were doing like an entire fake history for the car. Because Oilstain
nice. So what were you doing?
So we originally want to build a 917 type thing. 917, like you need a flat 12, otherwise it's like what the hell. And so we decided, let's build this half 11 thing. We'll build it with this engine, but let's build a story into it. So let's tell a car story a very different way than anyone's told it before. It's an interesting time because like telling this now 6 years later about like fake information, fake news, all the things that we were like poking at then, which were like trivial compared to what they are now.
Yeah.
Like it is so much worse now. But at the time it was, the US elections were happening. It was all this weird stuff happening. And so we decided, okay, it'll be like our sort of, audit of the world. And also like just Porsche Purists can be like pretty annoying. They know everything. They're always like very, they want to throw knowledge at you. And so we wanted to create something that would be like, wait, am I not a Porsche Purist? I've never heard about this. Like
this one-off car built in the 70s.
Yeah. And so, we created these very, I wouldn't call them photorealistic, but they were fairly convincing sort of vintage black and white photographs of our car racing at Le Mans, doing pit stops, doing all these things. And it kind of, lit a fire, I guess, underneath the social media of our brand and sort of went a little bit viral. And got us a lot of traction effectively. There you go. And
one of
so,
them.
yeah, people were genuinely like confused. Like, is it real? Is it not real? Um,
That's kind of funny.
Some people were getting like violently angry, like, how dare you try and mislead us? And, you're terrible people. And we were just like, have you ever watched like comic book movie like Batman? It's not real, man. It's just entertainment. It's social media.
We're just having fun.
Exactly. The keyword is fun. But yeah, so I mean that, and the other thing that it did for us is, we're both designers, so we're designing cars. When you design like even a production car, you're aiming like 12 years into the future, because it's going to take 5 years to make the car, and then the car will be on sale for 5 to 6 years. So you're trying to keep it relevant for 12 years. So you're always living in a fake world 12 years in the future. Like, you need to put yourself there. And so with this project, we did the opposite. We kind of went back to like the 60s and 70s. We're like, well, how would they do it? And putting our car in context with the other cars and the racetracks and the crowds and the fashion, it let us design the shape and make it fit in there in a way. And so it was a good filter of like what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. And then, yeah, I mean, then we decided, okay, cool, we've done these renderings, we've done this design, but like, let's build it. The only problem being we have no idea how to weld, fabricate, metal shape. Basically, up to this point, we know how to use an 11 mil socket, and that's about it. Yeah.
And yeah, that totally makes sense. Like you've designed. So were you designing the car in CAD at this point, and then to what level of detail? Okay, obviously you must have done some CAD to drop it into these photos and stuff. Was that all from CAD, or did? Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
And what level of detail would that CAD have had? Was it just an exterior with some wheels and stuff, or did you have inside stuff at that point?
Yeah. So, I mean, our experience was like, yeah, very, very limited. So at that point, it was certainly just a skin. We didn't know what engine we would use. Some of the early images had like a flat six, some had a V8. So yeah, it was just, I don't know, let's figure it out as we go, basically. Yeah. And then, yeah, one day we were basically at my parents' house. They have a house in Palm Springs. We were there with a group of friends, everybody swimming in the pool and having some beers. And then my brother and I just disappeared, and we were just like, all right, let's go cut this 911 in half and get this project started. So yeah, everybody walked into the garage and saw this 911 cut in half, and they're just like, what the fuck, guys?
What are you doing? Look, here's the finished car. It's going to look like this.
Yeah. And I remember, distinctly people being like, okay, well, how are you going to get from here to there? And we were just like,
exactly.
We have no idea.
How did you approach that problem? So you've got your chassis, unknown engine, unknown everything. You've got an exterior look, probably with minimal necessarily dimensions other than the scale. How do you start marrying those two together?
Yeah, it's it's a very illogical way that we did it. We didn't really plan on it. We just knew like this is the end goal. This is how we're going to get there. And every weekend or whatever, we just try to like do a little piece here or there, or sort it out, or find the right person to help us, or the right person to ask questions. So that project built out an entire network of really talented people. But the first thing that we ever built, which seems unbelievable, is the rear wing on the 11. So that was built the first thing. So we had a rear wing. We're like, cool.
That's the young guy in you going, well, if we've got a wing, we've got some downforce, and let's go.
Exactly. Exactly. So we built that. And then we ended up doing, originally we were thinking about fiberglass because the early Porsche race cars were fiberglass, but we just thought, okay, that's like fiberglass it's just a nasty, itchy material. So let's do aluminum, so the entire body was handmade aluminum. We took an aluminum metal shaping class with Jake down in San Diego, and then loved it. It was honestly life transforming. The way you see metal change in front of you as you run it through an English wheel, it completely changed the way I looked at sheet metal and all the tortured surfaces we were doing in the, OEM car design world.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, I feel so bad for the metal now, like the things we were contorting it into. So yeah, it was very therapeutic. I love metal shaping. So yeah, just kept getting better and better and better at it, and over time we built this car and this body. So
And it's got it's all these like lovely flowing shapes. Producing those shapes, and I guess probably was something that must have been challenging, especially as you're like learning and you've not got 100,000,000 hours making stuff. Is like you've made one side. How do you make the other side match?
yes. So luckily, Jake had a big surface plate, so we could take really accurate measurements. And there's a few little secrets that designers use, because when we work on clay models and stuff, you can take points and sections and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But also, like my brother and I, we've got this designer eye that's been developed over a decade in the industry. So it's a bit of a blessing and a curse. But yeah, we can often see, like when we evaluate surfaces on a production car, you're looking at 0.5 mm deviations and changes. So
wow.
To see that level of detail honestly almost ruins your life in many ways, because you look at cars and you're like, oh, that could use like 2 mm of crown and they screwed up there and this. So it can be, frustrating, but it certainly helped us with half 11 and symmetry and everything. The one thing we did screw up, and part of it is we screwed it up, but part of it is just the thing is so flexible. Like it is thin aluminum. So if you sit on it in the wrong place, like you put a big dent in it.
Yeah. Yes. It is actually amazing what humans can see. Like I wouldn't be able to tell this sort of stuff because it's not like something I've necessarily looked at, but in photos, I was a photographer some of the time. And if you've like lined up some pictures on a wall, if they're not in the middle and straight and level and whatever, I'll walk into the room and go, that's off. It doesn't matter. Like it's that thing, it's not right. I couldn't tell you how much it's not right. I could go, it needs to go to the left a little bit, and you could measure it. And it's like, not a lot. It's humans have a really insane ability to do that. So you're designing this shape and this car, but you're working on a 911 chassis and you're trying to build it out and do all this stuff. Did that in itself cause a lot of problems because you've got fixed points off the chassis that you're going to use for wheelbase and stuff? Or did you just go, yeah, we're just going to start here, and then if we stretch it a little bit, we stretch it, we made it wider? Like, how did that process work?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of laid out an initial sort of technical plan. We started with the wheels and tires because that was sort of vital. We used the same wheels and tires they would have used kind of F1 Can-Am back in the day. So that set the proportion stance and then the wheelbase as well visually, because we're using 15-inch rims, which is very uncommon these days. And then you basically lay out kind of where the driver sits, where we wanted it. We knew we would have to modify the front part of the tub, basically removing the entire dash structure, because to get visibility and stuff, now you're sitting on the floor. So we knew we'd have to cut some stuff there. The biggest problem with the 911 tub, we wanted to keep the entire front suspension, although we went to like a 935 tubular A-arm and stuff like that. We wanted it to be 911 at the front. And the front shock towers are just so damn tall. Well, when you're building like a Can-Am racer. We ended up basically cutting the shock strut down a little bit on the top in terms of where the nut goes on, and then using a custom made titanium ultra thin nut to secure the thing. Each nut
So
was
it
like
just fits on,
$70.
yeah.
Yeah, to like custom machine. But that allowed us barely to clear the bodywork. And then we had to redo the design a little bit with a little shallower sort of fillet, a blend between the two surfaces so that it wouldn't hit there. So yeah, there was some combination of metal shaping, sketchy engineering, and custom titanium nuts to make it work.
And during this process, were you showing the sort of drawings or the car or whatever? Did you have someone involved who knew about suspension design and stuff like that? Or were you just like, it should be pretty good to start. Let's just see how it comes out and then work on it?
Yeah. So, I mean, the entire project basically, my brother and I had like our hands in it from the start. So like we would lay out the initial concept for suspension, tube frame, rollover structure, everything. And then we would go to an expert and be like, this is what we did. We know we probably screwed up a bunch of stuff and it's probably not safe. And like, that's why we're here. So help us. So yeah, we worked with Joe Scarbo, who's become a really good friend over the years. He's famous for a number of projects, but he did like the Radford Pikes Peak car. He did the Ken Block Porsche, the Pegasus. So we designed the bodywork. He did a lot of the internal engineering on it. So we've worked together now, but the Half 11 was kind of our first joint project. And so he looked at my tube frame initially for the rear engine area and stuff, and he was like, that's cool. There's like a lot of dead tubes and like, it's not really super safe. And I was like, okay, well, make it safe then. And then he made it safe. And I was like, it's really ugly now, Joe. Like it looks terrible. We can't do that. So we just go back and forth, the usual, engineer, designer sort of, it is a battle, but I think through the battle, the project gets better and the outcome is better and more sophisticated. So, love working with that guy. So,
Nice.
everything on that project has been, like at this point I can weld, but when it comes to a safety thing, like the roll cage or a roll hoop or something that can fall off the car, I get a pro to weld it who does that because there's no price on safety.
Yeah. You want that stuff done properly. And it's I find you go to someone, you think have like a good idea about how to do something, like decent amateur at something, and then you throw something challenging at a professional, you're like, oh yeah, okay, that's why I pay you the money. That's thank you.
Yes.
So you've been through the design process, you've started putting this car together, you've gone at some point we need an engine. How did you decide what engine and what engine is in it?
Yeah, probably the most difficult and controversial decision we could have made. So yeah, let's just clear the deck, the pink elephant in the room. The engine is an LS. It's a fully custom built LS. It's not a crate motor or anything. Basically, almost nothing remains of the block. And yeah, it was built by a really cool engine shop for us. The only brief we told them is like we want it to rev to 8,500 RPM. We don't care about horsepower. We don't care about torque. All we care about is noise.
Sound good.
And I think everyone who heard it at Goodwood realizes, that was the design brief.
It sounded completely bonkers. I was watching some videos today. And then was that a difficult decision to go that route?
It totally was. I mean, I think the LS has a really bad stigma, especially here in the United States. Part of it is because a lot of people are just, pulling junkyard LSs and, putting in builds, and they have iron blocks and they're super heavy. And, I think every country is a little bit embarrassed of their own sort of success and the thing that they, have sort of put out onto the world. But for example, like we get a lot of inquiries from the Middle East about our car, and they love the LS. Like they want even bigger, and they want twin turbos and, you know, craziness. So, but it was personally for us, it was a little bit challenging. We wanted to use a Porsche V8. We looked at them all, but they were just too big and too heavy. The packaging didn't make sense. You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, the LS was cheap." Our motor is not cheap. It would have been far cheaper to put a Porsche motor in it. But like a flat six, we hate turbos. We didn't want to do a turbo motor for the car, so it had to be NA, and NA flat six. I mean, maybe 400 horsepower. Like that's not really
and
enough
the price
to build
just
a car.
goes.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, an air-cooled motor, realistically, you're making like 350, you know, with a 3.8.
It's not
if
enough.
you're lucky. And it's, you know, we have big tires. It's supposed to be a Can-Am car. It's supposed to be this car that, you know, wants to kill you. It was very much the idea was a scary car, the ultimate sort of, you know, 70s tribute, right? Like if you make a mistake, you die. Like that was the feeling you're supposed to have inside of it. And, you know, part of it was a lot of power. So that's why the LS. So it makes 650 horse on pump gas, you know, revs to 8,500, sounds crazy. It's perfect for what we set out to build, basically. So
yeah, and it's based on Can-Am cars. Can-Am cars are rowdy. It, by all I can tell, it looks and sounds pretty rowdy. Is it? Does it scare the shit out of you when you drive it?
The initial first test drive, yes, absolutely terrified me. You know, I've driven some fast modern day cars, but modern day cars are like you could do 150 miles an hour and it's no big deal, you know?
Cruise control.
Yeah. To put it into perspective, like, you know, I'm married. And so the first track day that we took this car out to, I gave my wife a big hug and I was like, I don't know if I'm coming back. You know, so it's like that's the kind of, you know, because it is a dangerous car, right? Like you need to be very conscious of it. It's like riding a motorcycle. Like if something goes wrong, there are consequences. And so, yeah, I mean, but I think that adds to the experience of it, you know. It is really about personal responsibility. It's about understanding the car. It's about reading signs. If there's warning signs, picking up on them. It's not about just running a car like a video game, which I think a lot of modern day cars are. So it's not for everybody, but that's what that project wanted to be like. You know, and the other thing is like, I've never driven a Can-Am car. So like when we built it, yeah, we took it to track days and stuff. But it's like, does it feel like a McLaren Can-Am car? Does it feel like a Porsche 917, whatever? So we hired Rick Knoop, who was at Goodwood this year driving the Shadows. And we were like, okay, we're going to rent out a track for 2 days. We're going to put you in the car. You race basically the Can-Am days. You race Le Mans. You've been on fire in a 956. Like, get in the car. Tell us, did we, you know, meet the target, which was this vintage racer? And so we sent him out first day. And he first day he was like, yeah, guys, I think really good job. Feels like a Can-Am car. Doesn't have quite the power of a Can-Am car, but turn in and braking is like a Formula car. Like it's much more nimble than a Can-Am car. And then we were like, Rick, you're only using 65% throttle. And he's like, oh, really? And we're like, yeah, the gas pedal is really stiff, like push down harder. So he went out again. And he's like, oh my God, you're right. Now it's got the power of a Can-Am car. Like, yeah, that's 100% throttle now. So yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's a good anecdote.
What does it weigh?
So the car now with the roof and everything is a little under 1,900 pounds, so like 1,875, full tank of gas. Kilos, I think that's like 830.
That's how you. Yeah, a little bit more. It's just under 900. 1975, did you say?
No, 1875.
Oh, 1875. Sorry.
1875.
Yeah. 850 kilos. That's light with
Yeah,
650
850
horsepower.
kilos, 650 horse, and like no traction control. The steering is super heavy. The brakes are heavy. The gas pedal's heavy. The clutch is heavy.
Everything's heavy.
It's it's
I
it's a
imagine.
blast.
Does it have some downforce? Like
So
some?
the front chin spoiler obviously helps. I mean, I think our aerodynamics. We did run it through CFD in the early days, and it came back as fairly neutral. Like it's not generating lift or
Yeah.
anything at high speeds. So it's probably more stable than some of the early 917s or the GT40s. Like we do have somewhat of an understanding, and obviously the rear wing does work. We even did a little study. You know how they used to put strings on cars and like run them at
Yeah.
speed? We did that at like Willow Springs and filmed it. We're like, oh, this is cool. This is what they did.
yeah. Take photos or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, we're
Yeah.
getting little arrow.
Yeah. But it's definitely not a downforce car. It's a pure mechanical grip car, but it's not lifting. So it doesn't really have a sketchy characteristic at high speed.
Yeah. That's nice. And I mean, how fast have you driven it on a track?
The fastest I've done, so without a roof, was probably the most scary one because before it was just a speedster, no windshield, and I did
that's
about
when I saw it.
Yeah, 155 miles an hour, and at that point, the helmet's just trying to choke you out, like it's just lifting off. And then as you turn into turn one at Willow, which is a pretty fast corner, it's like 90, 100. And just the helmet just like tries to rip your neck to the side as the wind catches it. And then in the coupe, I've done about 165 at thermal on the back straight.
That's fast enough.
Mean, it feels pretty stable. I think braking, we have a very interesting geometry on the front end of the car. So braking, it does what old vintage F1 cars do. Like, they kind of skid into the braking zone, like they're wobbling a little bit. It's a very cool feeling. You need to get used to it, but it makes you feel like a hero,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's fun. At what point in time did it get a roof? Because I remember I was looking up for some photos of it at Goodwood and was like, hang on a minute. I remember this having no roof.
Yeah, so last fall, we decided we're going to drive the car from LA to New York. So 3,100 miles to attend a car show.
As you do.
Well, everyone's always trucking these cars across the country, and we're just like, you know what? We do things differently. So we're going to drive it. We're going to film it, and it'll be a cool video. And we weren't going to do that without a roof. Like, what if it rains? What if, it's just brutal also, just hot, the sun, everything. So we started building a roof and finished the roof, I think, a week before the road trip. And, put the roof on. First time going out with the roof, like I wore a helmet and I was just like, I don't know if this thing's going to fly off and like guillotine me. Again, with things that you build yourself, you're just like, do I trust myself? And then drove it. It was a cold LA morning. Drove it to a pretty famous show here at Period Correct, to our buddy's show. And, it's like, I think it was 15 degrees C roughly, and literally just started overheating inside the car because our fans from the radiator are just blowing all the hot air into the car. And we're like, oh my God, this is going to be horrible. So after the show, pulled the entire car apart, pulled the body apart, and built basically 2 firewall insulators to keep the air out. And after that, the road trip was, perfect.
Do you have do you have sliders on the windows or any sort of venting stuff to get air in?
Yeah, so we've got 2 on each side. We've got 2 of these like helicopter portals, the little spinning round ones, and they work great. So as long as you're doing like 40 miles an hour, you basically have perfect airflow. But if you're driving like 10 miles an hour in the Nevada desert and you're in the car filming and you're in there for 40 minutes, you might pass out. Ask you how I would know.
That might happen.
Yeah.
It looks it looked rowdy before. It looks so slick with the roof on it.
Yeah, I mean, it was always I think most designers always envision a coupe. You know, it completes the form and it completes the proportion and
Yeah.
everything. And it was always designed as a coupe originally. It just, the way you build a car, that's the last thing you put on it, especially with our process. And so, yeah, it took a while to get there, but it was worth it, I think.
It's a very cool looking project and car. How was Goodwood? How was I know you were in the UK for a little bit around that.
Yeah. I mean, Goodwood was, I mean, it was our first time going, and you hear about how epic it is and everything, but nothing can ever prepare you for that. I think, a lot of friends are asking, like, how having your car that you built there being driven by a professional driver in the time shootout is maybe not the best way to experience your first Goodwood, because that is massive anxiety. There were a lot of high profile crashes this year, and in our group as well. And it's very anxious when the car is about to go out, and let's say it just started raining, or the rain hasn't dried and portions of it are still wet, and Dindo Capello crashed an R8 or whatever, and it's like, God damn it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I mean, the reception for the car was, I think it was interesting to see how it gained a lot of momentum over the weekend. So like the first day, no one knew what it was, basically. And then after it ran, because we ran first day at like 5 p.m. So I think not a lot of people got to see it as well.
Yeah.
And then second day, like more people started coming around being like, oh, I heard this thing. I need to come find out like more about it. It was definitely the noise. Like the noise is what captured everybody. And then by the time Sunday rolled around, like there was always just a crowd of people and everyone was like super excited. Goodwood was so kind to us, like the entire organization, letting us be part of it, then letting us film kind of around the roads and on the Goodwood circuit. And I think we brought a little bit of like California magic, and they appreciate it. It's a little bit of David versus Goliath. The event is getting more corporate, right, with a lot of these big companies sponsoring and big tents. So I think it was refreshing for a lot of people to just see like a little plucky group from California, show up with this totally mad thing. So yeah, it was fun. It was epic.
Oh, that's cool. Is it, did it run at Goodwood as it drives on the street at home, or did you just remove, is it like straight through pipes anyway?
Yeah, man, we didn't change a thing.
Because that's an issue that I think a lot of manufacturers of road cars have, is you go to Goodwood and all the race cars go and they're all like 125 decibels, like, and then the road cars go past and they're like 105, and it doesn't matter what it is. Literally doesn't matter what it is. Everyone's like, oh, that sounds rubbish.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in our group, we had 2 vintage F1 cars with Cosworth DFVs. I'm pretty sure we were louder than they were. So, yeah, our car is extremely loud. Obviously, we don't care about noise regulations in California because we're technically registered as a vintage 911. So there's exemptions for us.
Okay.
And then, but yeah, it is terribly sad. Like the Zinger that won the best production record up the hill or whatever, I think people were asking if it's electric,
it was so quiet.
Yeah. It's like, so, it's interesting because like electric hypercars right now are getting just destroyed for lack of noise and lack of emotion. Yeah. But then you have cars like these new supercars that are coming out, and they don't make any noise either. So like, honestly, what's the difference? Like it's sad what's happened with legislation, I think, in many ways. Yeah.
Yeah. And historically, some manufacturers at something like Goodwood would always just put the silly pipes on. Just, whatever. Just run the silly pipes just for Goodwood. So that everyone goes, oh, yeah. Because if you come across any of these cars, like one that didn't sound particularly mental on track, T50. But if you come across that on the street and you hear it give it full beans off in the dark, it's going to sound good. It's just in the context of 100,000 people outside, it doesn't sound as good. So yeah, they should all just just put the silly pipes on. Like no one's going to come at you.
Yeah, the Goodwood special.
Exactly, especially if you're Zinger and you've got a twin turbo V8 that revs like a lot. I think it revs really high.
Just
make it sound rowdy.
3D print some straight pipes.
Exactly, make them mental. Yeah,
and then they can offer it as a track package for their clients. I think
exactly, which people will order, put on the car, drive for 5 minutes, and go, can you make me something quieter, please?
Yeah. So Zinger can send us, we'll send Zinger an invoice for that idea.
All right? Sure. Small consultancy fee for prepping for Festival of Speed. There's a few things I want to talk about. And we're an hour and 5 minutes or so in. We're ticking along nicely. On your Instagram and actually on your website, it kind of there's the words HF11, which is you've removed an A and an L, and a carbon, some sort of little bit of carbon. Can you tell me a bit more about this project evolution? What is it?
Yeah, so I mean, we built this obviously a tribute to the 60s and 70s, which is the half 11, not to be confused with HF11, two very different things. So HF11 is our response to basically a bunch of people asking, hey, can I buy one? Can you build something like this, etc. The thing is like, what's difficult to understand about half 11 is it's very much a reflection of our metal shaping, welding, fabricating skills. And it is not a reflection of what we can do as basically designers using modern techniques and everything. And so it's an extremely compromised, extremely limited, extremely constrained project, which, I'm amazed always at the response that it gets because, we internally know how much more we could have done if we were better. And, but it's a moment in time, and it will always be magic. And, people have tried to buy that car and we've told them, no, we'll never sell it. So I'm not trying to disparage it, but I'm just
obscene about money.
Well, it'll have to be a number like that first Porsche single-seater Cone 356 thing.
Oh, yeah. So that's the ballpark, guys.
Yeah, there you go. 70 million. So the HF11 is kind of the response to the Outreach, and it's our first production car. And it's done and built, we call it the no excuses car. So part of being in a production design studio at the OEMs is there's always an excuse like, oh, we can't afford to do that. Oh, this technology isn't mature enough. Oh, this might be a reliability issue. This might be a warranty issue, blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah.
So we're trying to basically we put together a pretty epic team and building a car, no excuses, the best that you can do. And there's not really like the time that it's been in development is sort of stretched a little bit because of that ethos. So it's been in development now almost 30 months. It's a bespoke carbon tub. It shares nothing with any car on the street. It's a fully street legal car. And it takes what half 11 is, but brings it forward and uses basically the latest technology, materials, processes, full digital sort of manufacturing process. So it's very interesting because it's very cutting edge, modern, digital, but the goal is to not lose any of the soul of the half 11. But obviously now we have like real doors and there's air conditioning and there's a windshield wiper and there's a glass front windscreen, not a plexiglass windscreen. So it's a much more mature, sophisticated project, but still with a little bit of mischievous 60s, 70s soul in it, So that's kind of the goal, I guess.
And a similar sort of vibe, like Can-Am-esque rowdiness.
Yeah, I think we're pulling a lot of it's definitely that in terms of like what we want the driving experience, everything to be, but it's also pulling a lot from Group C. So it's a little bit more downforce. It's got some ground effects. It needs to perform. You know, the half 11 I think proved itself up the hill at Goodwood. You know, it ran a very decent time. But this new car, I think it needs to perform certainly at a higher level. We're not a manufacturer that's going to really tout numbers or anything. It's going to be always about pure fun, pure experience. But you know, the car will pull some serious G's. Let's say that.
Yeah. Are you? Is it going to go paddles, sequential, manual?
So the initial car it'll be up to a client. Basically, they can do paddle, sequential, or manual. I mean, talking with potential clients, I think most will choose the manual. I think that, you know, spiritually makes a lot of sense as well. Just, you know, again, it's about experience for us. It's not about numbers. We know a manual will be slower. But if you wanted to go fast, you just put an electric motor in it, you know?
It's true. It's true. You could get a, you know, Model X Plaid or whatever that will just smoke everything.
Exactly.
Okay. It sounds interesting. Can you tell me any more about it? Powertrain?
So yeah, powertrain. We've eliminated our most controversial decision. We will be using flat six architecture.
Okay.
The first prototype will use a less exciting motor. It's basically a 991 GT3 RS motor that's being used. So it's a decent motor, but it's not our signature motor. So we have a signature motor that's in development that I can't say anything about. But that's the one that will be the really exciting one. But the chassis development will be handled by the boring GT3 RS motor.
Yeah. And presumably, as with the half 11, you want it to sound incredible. So less likely to be turbocharged.
It'll be naturally aspirated and revs.
Yeah. When are we going to see any sort of renders or anything like that?
Yeah, so publicly, we're actually debating what the date is. We were gonna show something at Car Week, which is coming up, 2-3 weeks from now? 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But basically, there's so much noise. It's very difficult for a small company like us to sort of stand out or even be noticed. So we're going to do something just after. So it'll be probably late September, early October, where we'll do a full digital reveal first. So everybody will see what it is that we're making. And then we're hoping to basically start chassis testing, dynamic chassis testing early 25. So like January 25, dynamic. So yeah,
cool.
Exciting times, really nervous times.
Yeah, I imagine it goes from like, you know, this is a cool project that we're putting together, me and my brother, it's quite involved, to now this one, you're like, oh, this is quite a lot more serious, and a lot more headaches, presumably.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the interesting part about half 11 was like, you know, fully self-funded by my brother and I, passion project. We can kind of do whatever we want, lots of fun. We can screw up, no problem, no timelines. And also like the expectations are very, very low. The new project, you know, we've set our internal benchmark as no excuses. So that's pretty freaking high. And then we're trying to do it the similar way that we would have approached when we worked for the OEMs. The only issue with that is an OEM production program is, you know, 2,000-3,000 people involved for 3 to 5 years. So, you know, putting together basically a skunkworks SEAL team of experts that are, you know, everything from door seals, door hinges, etc. Like that alone can take 6 months of development time just to seal. And, trying to do that obviously on a fairly small budget compared to an OEM and with a very small headcount and a relatively accelerated time frame is a huge challenge, right? And you don't really realize that until, you kind of jump out. And I think, there's a lot of these startups that do start and, everyone is full of passion, but it is extremely difficult, like even for people that have done this like a few times now. Yeah. It's like, if you knew the things you knew, you wouldn't start.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of being naive.
I've heard this from other people. They're like, there's no way I would like inflict this on myself for the possible reward at the end, which is not very much anyway. How are you sort of singly going, this is the vision of the car we want to make? Or I know sometimes people start with that and then they go, okay, but literally none of the customers want this, or customers want something completely different. Okay, maybe we weren't quite right. Or you guys, like, how are you navigating that conundrum?
So, I mean, I think, the initial, always you have to like trust your gut and trust like what you believe in and what your passion is. And it's going to always be a reflection of, what my brother and I think the perfect car is. Like, unquestionably, it will always be that. But with this project, we've really, in many ways, we took half 11. We looked at it. Okay, people want to buy this thing, but they don't actually realize, like, none of these guys have sat in it or driven in it.
Yeah.
And we started with the customer and the client. We're like, okay, well, if somebody was to use this every day, like a more normal person, not a psychopath like us, but someone who's like normal. Okay, let's start with, you need to fit someone who's 6'4" with a helmet. Okay, that's our initial sort of benchmark.
Yeah.
Not 5'6" with a helmet and the helmet's all scratched up.
You're a bit at an angle. Yeah.
Exactly. So, we started with basically that use case scenario. And there's a number of cars like that we absolutely adore on the market that maybe missed the customer client use scenario, or were a little too extreme, or et cetera. Right. So I think the Valkyrie is like a beautiful example of an engineering project, incredible thing, but by all accounts, a little bit miserable to drive, a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit buzzy, maybe not exactly the word fun comes to mind, right? And so for us, it's about fun. And it's very difficult to have fun if it's something that's overly harsh or overly severe or overly compromised. That doesn't mean it can't have quirks or character or flaws, but you don't want to be strapped basically to a gearbox or to an engine or something like that, or have to wear earphones all the time. So it's let's say this: the new car is not my perfect car, because my perfect car is probably like a Sauber C9, but that's not everybody's idea of a good time on the road. So it's basically a compromise. I think it'll still be extreme. It'll still be very raw, and it'll still share the character, but it'll be very usable. Like, we want people to use these things, not just park them.
Yeah. And that then finding that point must be quite hard, because as you say, like, presume, I don't know, what sort of rough price bracket are we talking here? You can give me a swing of them. Yeah, loosely. Is it like 100 grand, 500 grand, $1 million, 5 million? I'm not holding plus. You to obviously.
Million plus.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the person ordering this car and buying this car has got other cars. They've probably experienced. They probably have lots. They probably have lots of other cars, lots of experiences, and then you're like, okay, do I want this one to be the one that they're like, if I've got half an hour, this is just going to be insane, and I'll drive it for half an hour, and it stands out because it's just rowdy. And I feel like the Valkyrie is sitting in that at the end of that spectrum at the moment. Like, it's just bonkers. You probably don't want to drive it for a very long time, but it's mental. And then you go, I'll have that in the garage because it's nuts. And then where along do you come? You don't want to be 720S, which is like really fast McLaren, really usable, possibly slightly boring because of that. Like,
Yes.
you know,
Yes. Yes.
Then it's like, you know, how do you position yourself in that? And what do the customers actually want? That's difficult.
It's I mean, it's super difficult. I think, there's not a magic like math formula or science that you can really put into it, right? And I think ultimately it comes down to a little bit of like branding, positioning, how you speak about something, as opposed to like what you avoid speaking about, what you prioritize. So yeah, it's a very interesting dilemma. And the other thing to understand is it's very nuanced, right? Like when auto journalists get a LaFerrari together with like Pagani, Koenigsegg, etc., like those cars are all fast. Like they're all fast. And if you put a regular person who's never had experience, the review would just be very fast, very fast, very fast, right? So like the only people that can really judge the differences are people that have all these cars and have actually driven them either at the limit or close to the limit, not just like tootling around or not just collecting them. So it's a very, very interesting sort of space, I guess. Yeah.
And your point about the branding and stuff, that is, you can look at a sort of pure, maybe journalistic review of a car, and they're, let's say on paper, they're just judging the car, rating everything out of 10 and giving it a sort of score, like as a sort of exercise. But when people are buying cars, that's part of it. But actually, I think it's such a small part of it. It's like, what is the image of this brand? What are the people behind it? What's their chat? What are they into? Do I want to be part of that community? What are the other buyers of this car like? Like, do I want to be those people? I don't know. And that really, when you take your Pagani, Koenigsegg, Ferrari, let's say put those three and maybe Bugatti or whatever, those sorts of cars, people will naturally, even before they've driven everything, experienced it, they'll have seen some photos, they all look pretty cool. They're going to gravitate towards one or the other for all sorts of reasons that are nothing to do with how that car drives.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think in many ways, the way it drives is maybe even the least important, at least to get people in the door or whatever, right? The way it looks. I mean, so regardless, like I think the Valkyrie is an amazing thing. I want to drive one so badly,
sick.
It's like, I don't care that it gets, people are complaining about vibration or whatever. Like I'd be fine with that, like I still want it. So
if I could have that car in a garage amongst another, selection of cars, and I wasn't having to like live on the street or something, I'd go, I'll have that, because it's a design, even just as a design statement, it's insane.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's just an engineering masterpiece, design, super cool. Like I would just nerd out. I'd just pull all the covers off and just look at all the crazy packaging and the insane motors, the hydraulics, the way everything's done. It's art, So yeah.
It's cool. It's funny. I saw Adrian Newey's Valkyrie at Track Day recently, and his is different. His is different to the other ones. So I think it has some sort of track pack on it that no one spec'd because it was quite a lot of money, and no one cared. But he was like, I want that. But then apparently he has a few other bits and pieces because he's like, well, it's my car, and clearly he wasn't necessarily allowed to make it exactly 100% how he wanted it, so he's tweaked it a little bit, and that's pretty cool. You're like, oh, fair play. Right, well, I normally sort of wrap these up with 5 questions. So do you have a most memorable driving trip or journey?
I don't know if the cross country in half 11 counts. It's a bit of a cop-out because it was like 4 days of driving, but we hit the most amazing roads. if it's like, if we have to pick a singular like 30 minutes, it would have been 2 years ago, just prior to Car Week. We did a morning run down PCH, 11:30, no roof, sunrise coming up, a little sprinkle of rain, fog coming off PCH onto the road. And it was just doing like 140 miles an hour. Not legal, but yeah. And like the streams of water going on the visor. Oh, that was too cool. It was like a video game come to life.
That must have been sick. Yeah. And imagine like empty. It's a cool section. And yeah, doing that in the car you've designed, built, you've been invited to come to Quail. I don't know. We know what that process is. Probably a little chat with Philip. And like all of that. That sounds pretty cool. If you could only drive one sports car for the rest of your life, and you can have some super cheap practical car on the side, what would it be?
Okay. Interesting question. I mean, if I was promoting my own business, I would say the next car we're making, but
obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would having not driven them, but I think I would gravitate between like a 330 P4 or that vintage Ferrari Le Mans prototype, or like a Sauber C9. I love the Sauber C9. I'm extreme in that way, like speed bumps, whatever, like we'll figure it out. We'll go a different road. Like we'll sort it.
Fair enough. That is hardcore. I rate that. You would get some looks in one of those Saubers. Might have to put a little lift kit on it or something. Well, that would be pretty good. What do you think is the most undervalued car at the moment? What should be worth more?
Wow. Interesting. I mean, I genuinely think like the one that comes straight to my mind are early Countaches. They're super rare, especially the thin body ones before they made them thicker for the Americans. Because at this point, like, I think there's only 400 of them or something like that. And they're under $1 million, and an Aventador, which is dime a dozen, is $1 million. And to me, that makes absolutely no sense.
An Aventador is $1 million.
Yeah, like, the 770 Ultimates with a manual or something,
oh, wow. I didn't realize they were so much. Although there is definitely a disconnect between the US market and everywhere else on some cars. Like I know, like Senna's. Senna's are really expensive in the States. Whereas like here, no one wants one. It's funny that like that odd thing. I don't know. Where there's too much wing. We're understated. I don't know whether it's that. Fair. Most interesting car to you at the moment?
Most interesting car. New car, old car?
New car, old car, whatever.
New car. Okay. Most interesting new car. I mean, I think
Googling?
I think, just because of the space that we operate in, I think the new Tourbillon was very interesting in terms of, what they did in terms of the powertrain. And then I think that interior is just, they could have been very conservative, and they have been for the last, 10, 15 years, like just kind of evolution. But that new interior is pretty crazy. Again, I think, it's very interesting what a huge team with a huge budget can basically develop. So I think that's very cool. And then obviously the Valkyrie, I think the Valkyrie is the single coolest and I know there's a lot of drama behind the scenes, and it could have been this and it wasn't this, but still it's remarkable.
Both of those cars. Yeah. I think the Tourbillon, I really liked, and I'm not buying one, so like they don't care. But like I really liked the concept of it, the name, how they've applied that to making the car, and like I saw it at Goodwood, and it didn't. I thought initially it was going to look like a Chiron, like literally just look like a Chiron, but a bit more. And actually, in the flesh, it's got much more like different shape design to it. I just think that's just a cool. And there's the stupid engine, like tick. Don't know whether I don't know. I'd love to know what it's going to sound like, but I think that is it's a crazy thing. And then Valkyrie, they had a lot of issues. I think that's a prime example of trying to do like the Mercedes, the AMG one. I that had a lot of issues, a lot more issues of going, we're going to try and put an F1 engine in a road car. And you sort of have to applaud all of these people for going, you're going to try and make these silly things. And oh, wow, they have to pass all of the stupid regulations. Fair play. Fair play. Where do you fall under road legal regulations and stuff like that? Obviously, your first car is out of that. It's it's an old 911. But the new one, what category do you fall under, and what rules are you subject to?
Yeah, I mean, we're fully street legal in the US, and seems like we're going to be legal in the UK quite easily. So yeah, I mean, we're basically aiming for full homologation. Yeah.
And does that mean you have to crash some cars and stuff like that?
There's ways kind of around it these days. You know, there's digital stuff. It's slowly evolving over time. So yeah, and there's like little loopholes here and there. So yeah, we're finding our path through it. Let's say.
Yeah. Fair enough. Right. Final question. 5-car garage, unlimited value. And it's got to fit into your life in the sense that you probably need some sort of car to drive day to day, although you might be driving a C9.
Yeah. I mean, I'd daily drive the half 11 if I could, but I mean, yeah. Let's see. 5-car garage. Okay, that's a fantastic question. I think I'm going to have to pick something from the 30s. So probably my favorite car from that era. Oh, shit, no. Okay. Probably Hispano Suiza, the Dubonnet Coupe. Yeah.
Nice.
So love that. I need some Art Deco streamlining in my life. So that would be one of those. I can't imagine pulling up to a theater in the 30s in that car. Like, that's such a spatial.
So cool. We need some more of this.
Yeah. I think I would want the modulo just as well as a design statement. So the Pininfarina modulo.
Did you say Pininfarina?
Yeah. Let's see. Let's pick some more normal ones then. I think I would also need an early Countach because that's just my favorite car. So a Periscopo, for sure. And then, you know what? Actually, I'll change the Sauber C9 to a Mazda 787B.
Oh, yes. Good choice. Good choice.
Let's go with that.
Better engine.
And then one more.
So that's 4. And which of you are you driving day to day?
I think
just about the other.
Let's. I think it would have to be something like utterly extreme and vulgar or something. Like, there's a guy up here in Northern California who's building like an old Ford pickup truck, I think, with like a Pagani V12 in it.
Oh, wow.
So it would have to be probably something like that. Like, I don't know. Let's make something up, like an old Range Rover with just like some straight pipe BMW race motor, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like technically there's space. We could put 4 race buckets in it. You know, we could insulate it a little bit so there's some sound, insulation. But yeah, something extreme. Maybe lifted, a little bit of a pre-runner, could take it out to the desert, get a little bit of air, but just something a little vulgar, extreme. Yeah.
With a hilarious rowdy motor in it. Yeah,
exactly.
I like that. Fair enough. I think that fits. That seems to fit in with your ethos on it explains a lot.
Yeah. Awesome.
Right. Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Of course. It was a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.